Now at 6, too close to call. The district attorney's race in San Francisco coming down to candidates with different backgrounds. Why a winner could still be days away.
2 escaped inmates finally tracked down the pair on the run for days, where their plan went wrong, landing them back in jail.
And Treasure Island goes dark again. It has nothing to do with PG&E power shutoffs. Now residents want answers. KPIX 5 News at 6 begins right now with a neck-and-neck district attorney's race in San Francisco. Good evening. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz.
And I'm Ken Bastida. Some new numbers just coming in. Check out how close this race is between Susie Loftus and Chesa Boudin. She leads by 2,200 votes this evening, with tens of thousands of ballots still left to count. Now, KPIX 5's Wilson Walker is following this race very closely, and he joins us with the latest. Wilson?
Ken, we say that every vote counts, and do you need more evidence of that? Now, as for whether it's your first, second, or third choice, that, of course, is more complicated. That's what they're trying to figure out in City Hall right now. Hanging in the balance, the head of law and order in San Francisco. How will this play out? We're not going to know for a bit, but the two likely outcomes, well, they are a little different, and they are certainly very interesting.
We had some ballots come to us in the mail today. It was like 14,000.
Nearly 70,000 votes left to be counted, but these 16,000 votes counted today pushed Susie Loftus into a 2% lead in the San Francisco District Attorney's race. This after 3 rounds of ranked choice voting. Now, the candidate who received the most first choice votes.
People are hungry for change. They're hungry for a different, more humane, more effective approach to criminal justice that does more than just punish people in a revolving door.
Public defender Chesa Boudin ran very much as the establishment opponent. You'll remember Susie Loftus was appointed to the job by Mayor London Breed just 17 days before the election. How might the two of them handle the job differently?
I would just say that being the district attorney is a very specific skill set. It's not easy. It doesn't translate directly from any other job.
Tony Brass is a former San Francisco prosecutor. He says Loftus has a more traditional DA background, but a Boudin victory might not seem all that different from the past several years.
I think Gascon made his name on being a police reformer, and I think that Chesa Boudin wants to do the same. Neither of them had ever been a prosecutor before.
I've got a lot of experience on the ground that George Gascon didn't have when he took office. I've spent most of the last 7 years in San Francisco's criminal courts. I've tried more than 24 jury trials to verdict in front of San Francisco juries.
Loftus declined to speak on camera today. She says she will wait for more detailed results. So with the votes cast, the respective campaign headquarters sat deserted today as the counting dragged on across town.
There might be some final processing, but I think like the bigger numbers will be done by end of next week.
So there you go, sort of middle or late next week, maybe we know how this is going to shake out. Now, flashback to September of last year when Mayor London Breed jumped at the chance to endorse Susie Loftus for this position long before we knew what was going to happen to George Gascon. She wanted an ally in that office to help with her plans for the city. Remember, that office does not answer to the mayor. You would like to have an ally there, so that's why London Breed would love to see Susie Loftus elected. Now, the other race that Mayor London Breed was particularly interested in, her appointee in District 5, who was trailing last night but now holds a lead of 0.2%, so the District 5 race incredibly close, but Valley Brown now with a slim lead over Dean Preston. Lots of votes still to be counted. We will stay on top of it for you. Live here at City Hall, Wilson Walker, KPIX 5.
Still thousands of votes to count in San Francisco, but we can tell you at this point, a tax on rideshare trips is squeaking by. Prop D would add a 3.5% surcharge to solo rides. It drops to 1.5% for shared rides. As of this evening, it's just clearing the 2/3 majority needed to pass. And it's the same story with an affordable housing bond. It is also too close to call, but leading with 69.3% of votes supporting it. 30.6% are opposing it. Then to Brentwood, where voters overwhelmingly rejected developer-backed Measure L. 70% have voted no. The initiative would have moved the city's urban limit line to allow for 815 acres of new housing. You can find updated election results online on all the Bay Area races. Also, those ballot measures. Head to KPIX.com.
Two dangerous inmates who escaped from the Monterey County Jail are back behind bars tonight. Jonathan Salazar and Santos Fonseca were led back to Monterey County. They were caught as they tried to cross from Tijuana, Mexico, back into the U.S. on foot. The Monterey County deputies got a tip and warned Border Patrol agents. The men are both facing murder charges in separate cases. On Sunday morning, they escaped from their cells, the Monterey County Jail in Salinas, and they've been on the run ever since.
Just because they're back in custody doesn't mean we're going to stop doing our job to investigate the crimes. We'll find out everything we possibly can about how did they get from, everybody wants to know how they got from Salinas to Mexico. We'll do everything we can to figure that out.
Since their escape, the Sheriff's Department says that there have been 3 security improvements made to the housing unit to prevent escapes from happening again. These inmates between them are now being housed separately in a new unit.
Live look at Treasure Island right now, where people living there are fed up after yet another power outage. It's a problem that's been happening for years, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. KPIX 5's Andrea Borba is live on Treasure Island, where generators are being used to keep the power on. Andrea?
Well, Veronica, tonight the SFPUC says people who live and work here on Treasure Island need to brace themselves for at least a year and a half more of power problems on the island.
The third outage in the last 24 hours, right?
You don't have to go far on Treasure Island to find people fed up with power outages. The island has experienced 11 in the past year alone.
It's bad. I mean, like people can't work, can't charge your phone. It's like, and what's weird is when you lose power, we don't have no service.
The island gets electricity from the Davis substation located at the Port of Oakland.
A lot of that infrastructure out there is 40 to 50 years old. To put into context, the useful life of most electrical infrastructure is 25 to 30 years old. So a lot of that infrastructure is outdated and old and needs to be replaced.
When the power flipped off last night, SFPUC switched Treasure Island to generator power, but those didn't have enough fuel. So the plug was pulled once again on TI residents at midnight.
We went to store, we spent $1,200 in the food, and the meat when they're sitting in the refrigerator is going bad because there's no electricity. Yesterday, the electricity, all night we didn't have no electricity, and the electricity came back this morning at 6 a.m. in the morning, but then we was here for 1 hour, and the electricity went up, and they haven't been back yet.
The power lines and grid here were passed down from the U.S. Navy and are now in control of the Treasure Island Development Authority, powered by the SFPUC. Press Secretary Will Reisman says the lights will continue to go out for another year and a half until construction is complete. PG&E is refunding customers for the time they lost power. Do you guys have plans to do the same? It costs $250 to refill a fridge full of food.
Understand that. I haven't heard any plans about that yet. We can check in on that. That's something we can obviously consider moving forward.
Now, in the past few years, a lot of businesses have relocated here to Treasure Island seeking lower rents, and in the case of some restaurants, seeking to cash in when redevelopment finally hits here. We'll take a look at what all of these power outages mean for their bottom line tonight on KPIX 5 News at 7 o'clock. Live on Treasure Island, Andrea Borba, KPIX 5.
New at 6, a legal showdown between a Napa grape grower and PG&E. This fight is over part of a vineyard that has been in his family for generations. KPIX 5's John Ramos on the farmer who is hoping for a miracle.
This property in Calistoga is part of the Cook Vineyards, but it is also part of the history of Napa Valley. And now PG&E says it needs to take it in the name of progress. Terry Gard's vineyard feels like a living time capsule. His family has farmed the land here since 1879, and his grandfather lived in the ancient old house on the edge of the property. His grapes are a rare variety imported from France, and he has some vines planted by the Chinese more than 100 years ago. But it is this corner of the property that is standing in the way of progress.
The day that PG&E filed for bankruptcy, I had a call on my cell phone from PG&E saying they wanted to buy a piece of the property, and they just flippantly said, we are going to buy a piece. And I said, I'm not interested in selling any part of the property.
A natural gas pipeline runs along Highway 29 here, and there are valves at the corner of Gard's land. PG&E says it needs the property to locate large liquid natural gas tanks to continue supplying customers north of this site as the utility completes a replacement of the pipeline. so the utility has gone to court to force the matter under eminent domain. In a statement, PG&E said, "Due to the placement of the gas valves already on the line and the size of property needed to temporarily house the LNG equipment, we are seeking a permanent easement for 1.3 acres. The LNG tanks will be brought in as needed and then removed." But GARD believes the tanks could easily be replaced by tanker trucks located on this state property across the street. And he thinks PG&E's plan is more about convenience than necessity.
With these fires the last couple of years, I think people have lost trust. They've lost trust, especially in the face of bankruptcy.
Decades ago, GARD's family lost another chunk of land to the city to create this water treatment plant. Now PG&E is once again claiming it's in the public interest to take control of more property. GARD knows he's battling long odds.
But at least I'll have my day in court, and hopefully, miracles happen, and maybe the court will see that there is social justice for the little guy.
In Calistoga, John Ramos, KPIX 5.
Still ahead, a gnarly scene on Highway 101. A car careens out of control. The Uber driver in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Plus, former Twitter employees now accused of espionage, what prosecutors say they got in exchange for inside information.
I'm Don Ford at the Point Reyes National Seashore, where after $5 million and more than a year in work, the lighthouse is finally going to open. I'll have that story coming up.
Very gray skies out there at the Point Reyes Lighthouse, very typical there, and you can see plenty of marine layer. But if you're inland, it is still very much summer. I'm going to talk to you about the places that'll be as much as 12 degrees above average for this time of year. Looking at the next few days coming right up.